hello, beautiful divine souls.
Welcome back to Goddess Unleashed and Goddess of Rebirth, depending on what platform you're tuning in, the place where we dive deep into the art of being present and living fully. I'm Monica, your guide on this journey to uncover the practices that lead us to a more mindful and fulfilling life. Today, I have a very special guest, someone whose journey and insights into mindfulness are both inspiring and enlightening. Paula Zhou. Paula is not only a renowned mindfulness coach, but also a passionate advocate for living a life of presence and intention. With years of experience under her belt, she has helped countless individuals transform their lives through the power of mindfulness. Today, she's here to share her wisdom stories and practical tips that can help us. Paula, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Monica, for inviting me here today.
Thank you so much for your patience and for your time. I we were talking for about 1 hour and I noticed that I wasn't recording. So for all the audience, this is a true gift from Paula to all of us. Um, I'm really honored to have you here with me. We were talking a lot about mindfulness and family dynamics and a lot of stuff. So stay tuned because this conversation is going to be very powerful and life changing. I would like to start by asking Paula, what is mindfulness? In simple terms, how can you define it and how can it be applied in our everyday life?
Thank you, Monica. And once again, thank you so much for having me here today. It's really such a pleasure to be here. So simply put, mindfulness is really just a state of mind. It's a conscious choice that we can make to pay attention to what we're feeling and what we're experiencing in the present moment. So maybe we can spend a few moments to just tune into what this mindfulness is and experience this. So if you just like to place your feet flat on the floor and bring your awareness, your attention to your feet. And intentionally choosing to focus on your feet and dropping in the gentle question, what do I notice here? Perhaps noticing tingling in your toes, or the contact that your feet are making with the ground beneath you. Perhaps noticing the temperature of your feet, the space between your toes. Perhaps you notice thoughts wandering through the mind, wondering what you're doing here. What is this that we're doing? Maybe you'd like to answer these thoughts by letting your mind know that, but very simply, we have been practicing mindfulness. So that's it. That's really what mindfulness is. It's just deliberately, intentionally, consciously bringing our awareness to the present moment and paying attention to the details that are here. And a lot of people ask me what the difference between mindfulness and meditation is. And really, there's a lot of different types of meditation. We can meditate with mantras. We can use our breath with different breath work, or different types of exercise for meditation. And mindfulness is really just a state of mind that we are in whilst we're practicing that meditation. And there's no special place that you need to be. You can practice mindfulness anywhere and everywhere. And you don't need to be in an ashram. You don't need to be in a temple. You don't need to even have a comfortable, beautiful mat with candles all around you. You can really be practicing mindfulness anywhere. And we can be practicing mindfulness when we're brushing our teeth, for example. And if you think about when you do this daily act, you do this twice a day or more sometimes, and where is the mind? Where does the mind go when we brush our teeth? So just bringing awareness to that and noticing that maybe when we're brushing our teeth, can we pay attention to the taste of the toothpaste on our tongue? Or can we notice what the sensations are with the bristles of the toothbrush touching our gums, and all of these sensations that are here? And maybe can we notice where the mind is going when we are usually brushing our teeth? And if I think back to myself this morning when I was brushing my teeth, I noticed that I was thinking about the day ahead. I was thinking about what we were going to be doing today. I was thinking about this podcast. I was thinking about the people that I'll be meeting today, and thinking about conversations that I had yesterday, and all of these things that are constantly running through the mind when we're really not noticing that they're there. So really, when we bring awareness to these moments, these simple moments throughout the day, where we're not intentionally practicing mindfulness on that's not the right thing to say, but where we're not sitting down on a mat and practicing formal mindfulness, but we're mindful in our everyday movements and our everyday activities. This is really what mindfulness is.
That is so beautiful. And the practice, the moment where you're taking us deep into our presence, is such a gift. It's such a gift to have someone with the skills and the willingness to guide you through enjoying that moment. I do feel like your work as a mindfulness coach, and as everything you do, because you're a lot more than that, is so valuable in this time, in our time, especially when we're rushing, right? Life is going fast. We were talking about this before, but I do feel like when I'm engaged in my daily activities, I'm always so worried about everything. And what you said, becoming aware of what kind of thoughts are coming to your mind when you're doing your normal daily things like brushing your teeth. Are these thoughts positive? Are they? It's not like you're judging what kind of thoughts they are, but like you're aware of what actually am I thinking of. And something we were talking about before was how sometimes I feel we're very critical of our appearance or our day ahead. What if, or the day before, maybe we did something and we weren't very happy about how it went through, and we become very critical. So this inner voice that is constantly talking, becoming aware of it is a gift, because we get to choose how do we respond. Do we respond with giving it more space and being more critical, or do we choose compassion instead? And that was something that you were talking about. You beautifully explained how compassion is such a gift for us to live a more peaceful and a more harmonious life.
As you said, Monica, it's really just bringing awareness to where the mind is and where the mind is going in each and every moment. And I remember recently I had a discussion with a lady who practices with me, and recognizing that the human brain has evolved to this very high functioning computer. It's an incredible computer that we have here in our heads, and no computer can compare to the human brain at this point in our life. And we have the ability to plan, and we have the ability to organize, we have the ability to think ahead, we have the ability to reminisce and to think about things that have happened in the past. We have the ability to judge and to categorize, to criticize. All of those things, they are part of what the human brain has evolved to be able to do. And it's what also separates us from the other animals in the animal kingdom with these abilities. So mindfulness is not about stopping all of this from happening. I think that is possibly impossible to no, it's not possible to be able to stop all of this, but it's being aware that it's happening, because most of the time we're living on automatic pilot and our mind is running off 100 miles an hour, and it's gone into criticizing, it's gone into judging, it's gone into worrying about things in the future, all of these things that may or may never happen. Or it's gone back to feeling, sad about something that's happened way in the past. So it's recognizing that that's happening, and then bringing ourselves to this present moment and realizing, okay, my mind has gone to this pattern, this behavior, and then choosing, because we have choices and we always have choices. Do I want to continue with this thought pattern, or would I prefer, is this helpful for me in this situation, or would I prefer to choose something else in this moment? And of course, we do need to plan. We do need to think ahead sometimes, and we do need to, this brilliant brain that we have. We need these things in our life. But when I know that I'm doing that, when I'm making that conscious choice to plan ahead or to think about maybe 10 years away from now, then I know that I'm doing it, and I'm aware that I'm doing it, rather than going into these patterns and spirals. Yeah.
I love what you're saying about having a choice. And I do believe that when you have the awareness of this critical voice, and this is something that we mentioned before, but I appreciate having this opportunity to be compassionate, to choose compassion over my critical, judgmental inner voice. And so having this choice, I want to be compassionate to myself, gives me also the power to be more mindful and compassionate towards others. Because like we always dream about, like, yeah, I want to have so much compassion for everyone, but if you don't have it for yourself, how can you have it for others? So it begins right here, right? I wanted to ask you, what are some other mindfulness based approaches that can help us improve our empathy and our communication, perhaps with other individuals within our families, and how can that help reduce misunderstandings?
So, yeah, I think that one of the most important ways that mindfulness supports healthy communication is through the pause. Again, that pause, that little space that we have, and learning how to maybe lean into this space when we have this regular practice, and recognizing that it's in this space, this pause that we can create for ourselves, that we can start noticing how we're feeling, and we start to become more aware of the sensations in our body when we're communicating with others, when we have these relationships with others, and we can start noticing the thoughts that are racing through the head. We can start noticing what urges that we have, maybe that we have these urges to defend ourselves, or we have these urges to maybe make our point known. Yeah, this other person needs to understand me, and recognizing these patterns that we have as humans. And then again, coming back to recognizing that we have a choice. And we're really given this incredible choice of how we can respond. And we can choose whether this response is a skillful response, or we can, do what we usually do, and that's usually flying into automatic pilot. And that can also often lead us into maybe conflict or misunderstanding with others, and cause communication barriers with other people. I think that this pause also gives us the opportunity to listen to other people. We often, I know that I'm very guilty of this. We talk a lot and we want our point of view heard, but giving that pause and that space to be able to really listen and to really understand another person's perspective and point of view is truly a gift to another person and to ourselves. I think builds this connection, this energy between us. And I think that, I'm thinking back to conversations that I've had as well, where some people speak to me and they say that they don't want to always be the bigger person, that they don't want to always be the one that's improving their communication and making their communication better. And they don't think it's fair that they are the ones that have to do this. just acknowledging this, that the mind has gone into that not fair pattern. It's all me that has to be this bigger person, and recognizing this. And as you said, Monica, giving ourselves compassion, recognizing that this is one of these maybe things that this human experience contains, that we feel that things are unfair, and just acknowledging this, noticing that it's there, and inviting compassion alongside. It helps us get to know ourselves a little bit better, get a little bit more comfortable and curious and friendly and caring with ourselves. And when we're caring and comfortable and curious with ourselves, then we can be all of those things to other people as well. And we can break down these barriers that we often have with others. Yeah.
Something that I remember you said sometime before was that we're only responsible for our own emotions and responses, and the awareness of the way that our body communicates is ours, right?
Yeah.
To recognize, to interpret, to feel, to
Yeah.
embrace and appreciate. And that led me to another question that I have for you that was about parenting. Because in our cultures where parents are the ultimate authority and they are
Yeah.
the ones who tell what to do, when, how, etc., right? And so for parents in our audience, how can mindfulness influence their parenting style in a positive way and their overall home atmosphere?
Yeah. I think that finding mindfulness was a wonderful byproduct of becoming a parent myself. So I have two children, an 18-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. And really parenting them has helped me to dive more deeply into myself, understand myself, and embrace this way of mindful living. Becoming a parent really reveals parts of ourselves that we possibly didn't know existed when we were young and carefree, and when we have responsibility for another human. And we talked earlier about, that we only have responsibility for ourselves, but that changes slightly as a parent, that we do have to take care. We have to care for this other human being, and we want to, make the best for them. We usually parents, they want the absolute best for their children, and so, children can push all sorts of buttons and triggers that they reveal so much. They hold this mirror up to our souls, and help us see inside ourselves all of those parts of ourselves that get annoyed, that get snappy, that get grumpy, that get sad, that get tired, that get, all of those parts of ourselves that we maybe hadn't noticed before. So in doing that, we're given this incredible gift to really get a little bit more curious with ourselves, to really look inside ourselves a little bit more deeply, and to understand why we react to certain things in certain ways. Mindful parenting is something that I teach. It's something that I advocate for. It's something that I try to live, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'm a perfect parent. I think that my children will be the first to tell you that I'm far from a perfect parent, but it does mean that I give myself the opportunity to let my children know when I've made mistakes. It gives me the opportunity to forgive myself when I've made a mistake, or to once again, to look into that and understand myself a little more deeply. Talk about these imperfections that we have as human beings, and give ourselves the ability to be authentic and vulnerable with ourselves and with our children, and experience the whole range of human emotions, how wonderful they are, that you know, the extremes of human emotions that we have, and to embrace them all as all part of this journey. Yeah. How can we be more mindful as parents? I think it's really just practice. There's no that mindfulness isn't you know a button that we press. It's not a magic pill. It has to come with practice, and possibly even after practicing for 15 years, 90% of the time, I'm maybe not as mindful with my children as I would like to be, but that 10% is already 10% so much better than it was or how it could have been. Yeah.
I really appreciate that you're talking about how this gift of being authentic as a parent, especially in a world where, with social media, and even before social media, I felt like my parents had this ideal of how we're the ones with all the answers. There was not this space to be free and to be authentic, to be who, to make mistakes, like you said, and that's just part of the human experience. At the end, what we are is humans. We're not robots. We're not social media models. We're humans, and that is the most beautiful part of ourselves. The part that breaks, the part that has flaws, the part that even suffers, right? It's all part of it. And so in this modern time, I do feel like we need to embrace more this gift of being authentic, especially when you're being a parent, because then you're giving your children also that gift to
Yeah.
be authentic themselves.
Yeah.
And speaking about the place where we live in China, in this culture, and I speak about my culture as well because they're pretty similar. Um,
Yeah.
This culture often emphasizes respect for elders and family harmony, even if sometimes that tends to fall into, I don't want to say an abusive pattern, but more of a pattern of you have no voice and
Mm.
presence in here. It's only like the elderly will tell you what to do. How can mindfulness help in navigating intergenerational conflicts or different viewpoints within a family?
Mm. I think that one of the most important things that comes along with this, or that grows with this practice of mindfulness, is this skill for compassion. And notice that I'm calling it a skill and not a feeling of compassion. And that's really because very often we don't automatically feel compassion. And it is something that we have to work on. It is something that we have to intentionally choose to invite this compassion along with us. And when we're in maybe these families where there might be some conflict, or there might be some where someone is not really giving us a voice to speak. It's noticing, first of all, how we are responding to that, noticing how we are feeling about that, and really getting curious, getting comfortable with the sensations that come in the body when we're not feeling when we're not feeling heard, when we're not feeling respected by another person, and being compassionate with that first, knowing that that's not wrong. If we're not feeling heard, and if we're not feeling comfortable in a situation, very often, I know that for many years that I struggled with this, that I would try to push this away, and I would try to pretend that everything is fine, and that I should be a happy person, that I'm so blessed, I have this wonderful family, I have all of these things that are here, and I wouldn't allow myself to feel these uncomfortable feelings because it was too uncomfortable for me, and I was trying to maybe convince myself that I needed to feel a different way. So first of all, I think just recognizing that we have these uncomfortable feelings and allowing them to be there, and inviting compassion to come along with these feelings. So you know when we are feeling upset about someone or annoyed with someone, acknowledging that it's okay to feel upset and annoyed, because very often what happens as well is that we get annoyed with someone, and then we get annoyed at being annoyed with someone, and then we have this constant fight going on, and I shouldn't be feeling that way, I should be respectful, especially when it's been ingrained in the culture that you have to be respectful to these people. That can be a real conflict for us, because we've been taught, and in the education system, in the families, it's been taught you must respect your elders, and then suddenly you feel that you're not having this respect, you're getting really annoyed with this person, and then this other voice comes in the head, is like, you're such a bad person, you should be respectful, you should be grateful for whatever it is that you have here. And all of these very complex layers of the mind, and recognizing that this is all just the mind, this is not us, these are all just complex layers of the mind and its manifestations. And when we sit back a little and watch all of that playing out, it can be quite comical, it can be quite funny to see all of that that's going on, but it can also be very, very heartwarming for us to get to know all of these things that we are experiencing in our existence. And by doing that, we can be much more compassionate towards ourselves. We can start to maybe change the neural pathways and start to have the default of compassion for ourselves. And when we have the default for compassion for ourselves, then that emanates outwards as well. And we can start to be compassionate towards other people. And especially in this culture where we are living, I think, and in many, it's not just in this culture, actually, we have so much trauma ingrained in all of our culture, all of the things that we've experienced, especially over this past, two centuries. I think that we've experienced so much here, and recognizing that there's trauma in the culture, and that sometimes when someone is speaking in a way, or being a certain way with us, that we can maybe find compassion for them as well, and recognize that they are also experiencing this global trauma, this collective trauma that is here with us, and finding a little compassion for that person too, understanding that they have their own set of troubles, they have their own set of beliefs, they have their own set of experiences that we haven't walked with, that we don't have any idea about. And that doesn't mean that we allow people a green card to be able to abuse us. That's far from what I mean. So if we're in an abusive relationship, and if someone is being abusive in any way, in physical or emotional or verbal abuse of any kind, then it's really important that, again, we recognize this, that we're aware of this, we're aware of what's happening. By bringing this higher consciousness of awareness, that we become more aware of how people are with us, and knowing that sometimes nagging isn't abuse, and it's just another form of love, and other times maybe there might be a need for us to move away from that person, have a little bit more distance from that person. Yeah.
I think many times we don't understand that many of the patterns that we see in our family dynamics and in society are a response to a traumatic event.
Yeah.
That we thought we considered it normal, it was normalized and it was accepted as that is the rule, that's how the world works. But now we're at the space and a time when we have realized that that was not normal. It was a response to a traumatic event in the past, and our grandparents, our great grandparents, even our parents were just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And that became abusive, not because they wanted to be abusive, but because that was the only way they knew, right? And so I think when we're having this conversation, um, sometimes people might feel like, oh, well, you're trying to rebel against, like, like the family dynamic that we have set up for 5,000 years. But it's not that. I feel like it's more about being more honest about where these patterns are coming from, where do they generate, and then perhaps giving it more opportunity to respond from different ways, like you said, from a more compassionate way, from a more loving way. And that's what I call healing. That's how I break the cycle of, well, in the past the children in my family didn't have a voice. Now they do have a voice, and we hear them, not because we want to change the way in which the family works, but because we want to heal
Yeah.
patterns that were not always the most helpful. So speaking about that, my last question for you, Paula. Mindfulness has gained significant attention in both the wellness community and medical research. From your perspective and experience, what are some of the tangible medical benefits of practicing mindfulness? And how does
Mhm.
incorporating mindfulness into one's daily routine contribute to our health and potentially aids to prevent and manage certain medical conditions?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the part that I absolutely love, because uh, knowing the science behind this is really important for some people. Getting to know what's actually happening in the body, the brain, and collectively is really important for us to continue this practice and to spread this practice even further. So mindfulness was brought to the Western medical community by John Kabat-Zinn back in the 1970s, when he introduced mindfulness to patients with chronic pain and terminal illness. And he brought this to the hospital community and to patients who were, they were told that there was nothing else that could be done for them, that they just needed to deal with what they were dealing with. And his research was incredibly profound, and people who had these illnesses were recording that their quality of life was improving massively by practicing mindfulness. And since then, the research on mindfulness has grown exponentially. So back in the 1970s, there were probably 2 or 3 research papers a year. In 2023, if I remember correctly, there were 20,000 papers. So it has grown. I might have got that wrong, Monica. Let me double check and tell you. Okay, so but definitely the number has grown exponentially. And some of the most extensive research has been done on mindfulness and depression, and certain different psychopathologies, but in particular with depression. So the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, which I am a teacher of, this was created by a group of psychologists and psychiatrists, and they blended mindfulness with cognitive behavioral therapy for this 8-week course that we run. And this is has been proven many times. So not just one time. There hasn't just been one research. It's very very profound research, most of it coming from Oxford University, where this mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, this 8-week course, is as or more beneficial for people with ongoing depression than antidepressants. So this, and of course without any of the negative side effects. So this is really wonderful. It's something that people are really feeling a profound effect on. And of course, there's super exciting research coming out as well about how mindfulness, practitioners of mindfulness are there's records of neurogenesis in the hippocampus. So there's this birth of brain cells in the hippocampus, and this is showing that this may be really beneficial in dementia research. So helping people to prevent against dementia, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases. Of course, there's lots of other research as well, where there's research showing that it can help to lower blood pressure. There's research showing about how it can regulate respiration and heart heart rate. It's also shown how there's also research showing how it's really helpful with people with ADHD, PTSD, schizophrenia, and bipolar. And also, it's so fantastically helpful with people who have no problems. And this is where as well, where one of the things is really, really important to recognize is that we don't wait for there to be a problem before we start practicing mindfulness, that we can practice it now, because all of us are on this continuum, on this like bandwidth really of health. And many of us are teetering towards the unhealthy, whether we're coming towards burnout, whether we're coming towards maybe feelings of melancholy and sadness and possibly depression, where we're feeling anxiety. We might not be clinically diagnosed with these, but many of us in the population are living on this edge of wellness. We're not in the thriving edge. So it can really help us to take us from just barely surviving, not really ill, but barely surviving, into a thriving threshold. Yeah.
My grandma she's 80 something, 86 maybe, and she is dealing with dementia. So she doesn't really remember people. She's forgetting like mostly everything, and it is sad. And so having something that you can incorporate into your daily life, and something that is so, I do feel like mindful is something you can enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not something tedious that you're kind of like taxing, boring. It's something that even improves your relationship with yourself, your self-awareness,
Absolutely.
the connection with your presence and with everything around you, as we were speaking in the beginning. And so what a beautiful gift. What a beautiful gift to have access to such tools. And Paula, there are a few things coming up from you, right? Is that right? You have a retreat coming. You have a mindfulness coaching group. Okay, tell me what's coming up. How can people reach out? Where can they find you? How can they learn more?
Okay, that's great. So I have a daily mindfulness group that we practice every morning, weekday morning, and every weekday evening. This is an online coaching, and it's really just for community, because as wonderful, as easy as it's as joyful as mindfulness is, it takes commitment, and being committed in a group, a community, is much. We have this, where others are there with us, we can feel a little bit more that we want to sit down and we want to commit this 30 minutes to our day every day. So this is daily, this is ongoing, this has been going on for the past couple of years now, and it's so wonderful to practice with everyone in the morning and the evening time, or whenever they have time. They don't have to do it every day. Some people practice 2 or 3 times a week with us. And it's just really with your own schedule. I also have upcoming and ongoing mindfulness-based cognitive therapy groups. So these are 8-week courses. These are courses that are affiliated with the Oxford University Mindfulness Foundation, where I'm a teacher. So this is something that we can offer to the community. That we can offer them to groups, we can offer them to schools, and we can offer them to companies. Or just to individuals throughout. So we have one that's starting on February the 29th. That's actually, I think there's only 1 space left on that group at the moment, but they will be ongoing as well throughout the year. And I have a women's retreat that is will be on March the 8th to March the 10th here in Xiamen. We'll be gathering together and celebrating how wonderful we are as women. So any ladies who'd like to come to that are very, very welcome. And I offer well-being coaching for companies and for schools as well. My own research is in mindfulness for children, and how mindfulness a regular practice of mindfulness in early childhood can support mental well-being in later life. So it can actually build executive functioning. It can support executive functioning or healthy executive functioning to prevent a whole host of psychopathologies later in life. And it also has lots of other wonderful byproduct effects in that it can support language development. It supports social well-being, so being with other children, empathy. It also has some research showing that it can also support in mathematic cognitive development as well in other areas. So it's wonderful to really start in the early years. So I teach schools how to implement the mindfulness in the early years. I'm also an early years specialist, so I've worked for many years in early childhood education. Yeah.
As an educator, I can tell you that this is such an important thing right now for children, because I work at a primary school and I see the struggle of the younger ones, and you are truly giving parents an option that is not medicated, like many other options are dependent on medication. But this is such a holistic and beautiful approach to mental health and to health in general, to well-being in general. So yeah, people should definitely reach out and find more about what you're doing, what you're teaching, your groups, and the retreats. Are there any last words that you would like to share with our audience, Paula?
Yeah, I think just show up. There are going to be days where you think, I can't do this. There are going to be days where your mind is so busy, so crazy. There's going to be so much going on. There's going to be so many sensations that feel so uncomfortable. And it's going to be the last thing that you want to do, but do it anyway, because that's when we need it the most.
That is so inspiring. Paula,
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for sharing your insights and stories with us today. Your passion for mindfulness, it's so transformative and contagious. And to our listeners, I thank you for tuning in. Remember that the journey to mindfulness is one step at a time, and it's a path worth exploring for the peace and the clarity it brings to our lives.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's really been a gift.
I am thrilled to have you in my circle, and I am buzzing with excitement to conjure up some magic together. Remember, in Goddess Unleashed, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the mystical walk. Tune in and transform with me. Until next time, keep your spirits high and your magic untamed.